So as of late, you might have noticed that we haven't really been doing the like Tuesday stream highlight videos because these last few streams have just been kind of revealing the starter deck bosses, and you know, they all kind of do relatively simple things because they're all there to just kind of like teach new players how to play the game, and that's more or less it. You know, so you got like the Dragon Empire one, it retires a rearguard, whoa, and like they all search for a Persona Ride, whoa, and then the Dark States one calls a card from Soul, whoa, the Keter one calls a card from Drop for some reason, not from deck, which is a little strange, but you know, whoa. And then the Brand Gate one is like the most interesting one, where it's basically Victor rebranded, but at the same time it also works with the Blitz stuff from previous sets, so at least that's kind of nice. You have like a deck to upgrade from the very get-go. But there is one part about the new starter decks that I don't see talked about much that coincides with the change to the main deck rules, right? So I'll quickly pop this up. This is the product page in Japanese for these starter decks. So you can see here that, of course, they are 55 card decks because of the fact that they have, you know, the 50 card main deck plus the 4 cards of the ride deck and the energy gauge, right? But the very important thing about the, you know, we've seen like the card lists of these already. They've been showing them on the streams and stuff, and none of these, and I mean none of these, have the over trigger in them, which I think is a very important part to stress that I think none of us have really been talking about too much. And the whole point of why I'm saying this is that when the OT first came out and people very quickly started to kind of go like, the OT needs to be banned, ban it, ban it, ban it. One of the biggest counter arguments, and I'm part of the people who made this counter argument, is that the OT cannot be banned or regulated just yet because the OT is part of all the sealed product. Therefore, banning the OT makes all of the sealed product immediately incomplete. So it's like immediately illegal for play. And that argument now is very interesting because there's 2 additional layers that have been added starting from next January. So the first one is that, especially for English, this one is the most important one, is that because of the 50 card main deck change, now every single sealed starter product, except for the Stride deck sets that gave you extra cards, is actually illegal for playing just out of the box, right? So basically, if a new player were to want to get into Vanguard after the, what is it, 19th of January, when the deck change rule goes into effect, is the fact that if, let's say, somebody buys one of the first 5 start decks, or if somebody buys the Lyrical Trial deck, or Shaman King Trial deck, or like any of the other beginner products, even, well, I guess the stand-up deck sets did have extra cards, so you're barely safe there. But any starter deck product that was released without extra cards is immediately legal. So that argument in the past that basically said, oh, you can't ban the OT because it will make product, you know, unplayable because you ban a card that's in decks, right? Like a layer of that argument has been pulled apart because now with the new main deck rule change, you've already kind of disassembled and forced changes onto these like sealed starter decks. The Orpheus one is still illegal because there's 5 Sentinels in it. Oh my god, we can't have shit. But then there's another layer. So what's interesting for the English side is that, at least for the Japanese side, combined with this main deck change, the quick start decks will release. So at least there is a starter product available for new players to get into the game with these legal 50 card main deck decks. But in English, that won't be for a while. So English will literally not have legal starter product until the quick start decks come out, unless you buy a Stride deck set. And those are meant for like kind of medium tier or like returning players, not like complete beginners, right? And so that's kind of like, you already have this problem of like, well, anyone that starts Vanguard with a old starter deck technically needs to immediately start upgrading it. So we already have a small issue there. But what is another interesting point is that the OTs are not in these new starter decks. And because we have, you know, the sort of interesting almost admission from, or confession, I guess, from the developer side, is that the OT actively might be detracting from the learning experience of Vanguard. And maybe that's why. Again, I don't know why, but there must be a reason why they didn't put even the Cray Elemental Overtrigger into these decks, right? Not even the generic one is in these decks. There's no OT. It is 16 regular triggers. So there's a lot of interesting things you can draw from that. Does it mean that eventually we will not have OTs anymore? Maybe, yeah, like another theory is there's too much text on the OT, therefore it's too confusing for new players, much like having ride deck skills. And, you know, or does it mean that maybe eventually we might finally start saying goodbye to the annoying 100 million? Maybe they will finally do an errata and not feel like they're invalidating a bunch of old product, you know? This could have been a very good time to do an errata too, by the way, you know, just like change the rules of the OT would be nice. Print new reminder text of the rule change, you know, change the number a little bit. It could be pretty cool, but I think there's this little detail of these new start decks has really been glossed over by the community. At least the parts of the community I've been looking at. Maybe I've not been looking at the right angles of the or sides of the community. But I feel like this part has definitely been glossed over a little bit. So I'd like to know your thoughts as well. What do you think about this? What is your reasoning why they took out the OT from these start decks? Because to me, it's a little weird, right? If you want to teach the game to new players, right? You want to teach everything about it, right? Because now a new player will get into the game with one of these quick start decks, go like, wow, Vanguard is so fun. I love these 4 different types of triggers that all have these various cool effects. And then they sit down for their first ever tournament game, get hit with 100 million. They're like, this wasn't the starter deck. Nobody told me about this funky number. And then it's Jover. They go back to One Piece, you know? They take their freaking energy cards, they put them into their Dawn deck in One Piece, and they're out. It's over. So I don't know. I feel like it's a pretty interesting move on their side, and it feels like there needs to be multiple layers as to why they decided to do that. So I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what you think is the reason why they didn't put the OT in this quick start deck, and what other conclusions can be drawn from this interesting decision, and especially the English side situation in terms of there being not much legal starting product until these quick start decks come out. But anyway, if you like this video, give it a like. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. And if you want to get some bonus content, consider becoming a YouTube channel member, as it helps the channel a lot. And of course, you can also view some upcoming videos a bit early as well, once I am a little bit ahead of my upload schedule. So that does happen sometimes, by the way. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.